It was another busy morning in Judge Judy's courtroom. The camera lights flickered on, the audience murmured in anticipation, and the door to the courtroom opened. A teenage girl strutted in, her expensive designer handbag swinging from her arm, sunglasses perched on her head, and an air of entitlement surrounding her. Her name was Tiffany Marks, 17 years old, and she had already made a name for herself, not for achievements or hard work, but for her attitude. Tiffany was being sued by a local auto mechanic for damaging a car she had borrowed without permission and refusing to pay for repairs. It wasn't the most serious case Judge Judy had ever seen, but as soon as Tiffany opened her mouth, everyone in the room knew this was going to be memorable. As she took her seat at the defendant's table, Tiffany rolled her eyes at the courtroom clerk and sighed dramatically. "Can we get this over with?" she muttered, loud enough for the cameras to pick it up. "I have better things to do than sit here with a bunch of broke people." Judge Judy entered moments later, taking her seat with her usual composed authority. "Good morning," she said briskly. "Let's get started. We have the case of Mr. Daniel Rodriguez versus Miss Tiffany Marks." Tiffany didn't even stand when the judge entered. The bailiff's glare finally made her rise, though her posture screamed defiance. Judge Judy's sharp eyes caught every detail, her designer shoes, her flashy jewelry, her careless smirk. She'd seen this type before. Mr. Rodriguez, the plaintiff, stood on the other side. He was a hard-working man in his 50s, still wearing his oil-stained work shirt. "Your Honor," he began, "this young lady took her friend's car, her friend being my customer, and she drove it recklessly. She brought it back with a cracked bumper and scratches down the side. When I gave her the repair bill, she laughed in my face." Tiffany crossed her legs and flipped her hair. "That's not true. I barely even touched the car. Those scratches were already there. Besides, it's not my fault if he's running some tiny little shop and can't afford better tools." Judge Judy's expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "Miss Marks," she said evenly, "you understand that you're under oath?" Tiffany gave a careless shrug. "Yeah, whatever." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Rodriguez looked stunned at the girl's audacity. Judge Judy leaned forward. "Let's be clear," she said. "You borrowed the car?" "It wasn't really borrowing," Tiffany replied. "My friend said I could use it, and she knows who my dad is. It's not like I'd steal something. My dad's the governor. We don't need to take things." The words hung in the air like a bad smell. A few people in the audience gasped softly. Judge Judy tapped her pen once against the desk and said, "Your father is the governor?" Tiffany smirked, enjoying the attention. "Yeah. So, maybe you should just dismiss this. I don't think my dad would appreciate me being treated like a criminal for something so dumb." Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, silent for a moment. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the faint hum of the lights. Then, with a calm but cutting tone, she said, "Miss Marks, I don't care if your father is the governor, the president, or the king of England. In this courtroom, your last name means nothing. Only facts matter here." Tiffany's smirk faltered slightly. Judge Judy continued, "Now, according to the evidence, you were driving a car that didn't belong to you, and that car was damaged while in your possession. Whether your father runs a state or a lemonade stand doesn't change that." "But that's not fair," Tiffany snapped, her voice rising. "You can't talk to me like that. Do you know who?" Judge Judy raised a hand, cutting her off. "I know exactly who you are, a teenager who thinks rules don't apply to her because of who her father is. You think money and status protect you, but in this courtroom, they don't." The audience murmured again. Tiffany's face flushed red, and she folded her arms tightly, pouting. "This is stupid," she muttered. Judge Judy turned to Mr. Rodriguez. "You have photos of the damage?" "Yes, Your Honor." He handed them to the bailiff, who brought them to the bench. Judge Judy examined them carefully, nodding slightly. "Clear as day," she said. "The damage matches his description." Tiffany interrupted, "You can't even prove I did that. That car was already old and ugly." Stop talking, Judge Judy said firmly. When I speak, you listen. That's how this works. Tiffany's jaw dropped. No one had ever spoken to her that way in public. For a long moment, she just sat there, stunned into silence. Judge Judy then turned back to the plaintiff. How much did the repairs cost? $1,842, Your Honor. Judge Judy nodded once. You'll be paid in full, she said. What? Tiffany blurted. No. I'm not paying him. This is ridiculous. Judge Judy looked directly at her. You will pay him, Miss Marks. And you will consider yourself lucky that all you're losing today is money and not your driver's license. Because if I had any say in that, you'd be walking for a long time. Tiffany's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The courtroom was silent again. Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice dropping to a calm but powerful tone. Let me tell you something, young lady. Respect is not bought with money or power. It's earned through behavior, through how you treat others, especially those who can't do anything for you. The teen stared down at the table, her face pale. You think being the governor's daughter gives you special treatment, Judge Judy continued. But in my courtroom, you're just another person. And the sooner you learn that the rules apply to you too, the better your life will be. She paused for just a second, then delivered her final words, the ones that would later go viral online. You can tell your father, the governor, that I said this. I raise citizens, not entitled brats. The gavel came down once, sharp and final. Judgment for the plaintiff. Case dismissed. 15 seconds. That was all it took for Judge Judy's response to destroy the teenager's smug confidence. Tiffany walked out of the courtroom in silence, her head low. For the first time, the cameras captured not arrogance, but humility, or maybe shame. The audience clapped softly as Judge Judy stood and left the bench, her expression unreadable but firm. Outside, reporters tried to get a statement from Tiffany, but she said nothing. Her driver whisked her away, her sunglasses hiding the tears in her eyes. Later, clips of the exchange flooded social media. Judge Judy humbles governor's daughter in 15 seconds, the headlines read. Millions of people shared the video, cheering the judge's no-nonsense wisdom. And somewhere, perhaps for the first time in her life, Tiffany Marks began to realize that her father's name couldn't shield her forever. She had been taught a lesson that no amount of wealth could buy, and that, in Judge Judy's courtroom, truth always stands taller than privilege. The courtroom buzzed with low conversation as the audience took their seats. Cameras panned across the familiar set, capturing every corner of the room. The double doors opened, and a teenage girl sauntered in, her chin held high, dripping with arrogance. She wore designer clothes from head to toe, her nails freshly manicured, her phone still in her hand as if she couldn't bear to look up from it. This was Brianna Carson, 17, the daughter of the state's governor, and she made sure everyone knew it. Brianna had been summoned to Judge Judy's court after being accused of damaging a borrowed car. The owner, a local repairman named Jacob Harris, claimed she had taken her friend's car without proper permission, scratched it badly, and refused to cover the repair costs. What could have been a simple civil case was about to become a viral moment no one would forget. Judge Judy entered, as composed and commanding as ever. The entire courtroom rose in respect, everyone except Brianna. She stayed seated, legs crossed, chewing gum. It took the bailiff's stern warning to make her reluctantly stand. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and looked at the girl for a long second. You may be seated, she said dryly, already sensing trouble. Thank you, Brianna replied, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Judge Judy turned to the plaintiff. Mr. Harris, please explain what happened. Jacob, a humble man in his late 40s, stepped forward. His hands were rough from years of hard work. Your Honor, my customer, Brianna's friend, brought me her car for repairs. The next day, before I could even get started, I found out Brianna had taken it for a drive without asking. When it came back, the bumper was cracked, the mirror was broken, and the paint was scratched. I showed her the damage report, but she refused to pay a dime. Judge Judy nodded. Did she admit to taking the car? Oh, she laughed about it, Jacob said. Said her dad would take care of everything. Brianna smirked. Well, he would have if you weren't exaggerating. I barely even touched that junky thing. My dad's car costs more than your whole shop. The audience gasped. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed slightly, but her tone remained calm. Miss Carson, you'll have a chance to speak when I address you. For now, keep quiet. Brianna rolled her eyes but said nothing. Now, Judge Judy continued, did you, in fact, drive the car? Brianna shrugged. Technically, yeah. My friend said it was fine. I mean, come on, it's not like I stole it. Everyone knows who I am. My dad's the governor. That line hung heavy in the air. The audience exchanged glances. Judge Judy put down her pen slowly. Your father is the governor, she asked, her voice calm but cool. Brianna smiled proudly. That's right. Governor Carson. Maybe you've heard of him. I don't think he'd be happy knowing his daughter's being treated like a criminal over some scratches. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair. Her silence stretched for a few seconds, the kind of silence that made even the cameraman hold his breath. Then she spoke, her tone sharp as glass. Miss Carson, in this courtroom, I don't care if your father runs the state, the country, or the solar system. Everyone is equal under the law here. You understand that? The teenager's smile faltered. But. No buts, Judge Judy interrupted. This isn't your father's mansion. This is my courtroom. Laughter rippled softly through the audience. Brianna flushed red. Judge Judy turned back to the plaintiff. Mr. Harris, how much are the damages? $1,870, Your Honor. The judge nodded. Do you have proof that these damages occurred while she was in possession of the vehicle? Yes, ma'am, Jacob replied, holding up photos. The bailiff delivered them to the bench. Judge Judy studied them carefully, her face impassive. Then she looked up. The car was clearly damaged after she took it, Judge Judy said. Same vehicle, same license plate, same scratches. It's obvious. Brianna leaned forward, her voice defensive. That's not fair. That car was already messed up. How do you even know it was me? Judge Judy looked directly at her. Because you admitted you drove it, Miss Carson. And the damage matches the timeline of your joyride. You don't need to be a detective to put that together. This is ridiculous. Brianna said, her voice rising. You can't talk to me like that. My dad. Stop right there, Judge Judy snapped. Her voice cut through the room like thunder. Don't finish that sentence. I'm not impressed by who your father is. What impresses me is honesty, respect, and responsibility, none of which you've shown so far. The audience clapped softly before being hushed by the bailiff. Brianna's confidence started to crumble. You're being unfair, she muttered, staring at the desk. No, Miss Carson, Judge Judy replied, her tone calm but firm. I'm being perfectly fair. You caused damage to another person's property, then tried to use your family's influence to escape accountability. That's not how justice works. Not here. Not anywhere. The judge's words hung in the air for several seconds before she continued. Do you have anything else to say that might change my decision? Brianna hesitated. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for sympathy, but found none. No, she said quietly. Good, Judge Judy replied. Because my decision is final. You are responsible for the damages. You will pay Mr. Harris $1,870. What? Brianna burst out. That's insane. I don't even have that much cash on me. Judge Judy didn't blink. Then I suggest you ask your father, the governor, to teach you the value of earning your own money. Case closed. The gavel slammed down. The audience erupted in quiet applause. Brianna's eyes widened in disbelief. For the first time in her life, her name, her status, and her father's power had meant absolutely nothing. As she stood to leave, Judge Judy spoke again, her voice softer but filled with meaning. "Miss Carson, let me tell you something. Life won't always bend for you. Sooner or later, you'll have to stand on your own 2 feet. And when that day comes, no title, no amount of money, and no family name will save you. Only your character will." The young girl froze, unable to respond. Her pride cracked like thin ice. She lowered her head and walked quietly toward the door. The audience watched her go in silence. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed her, shouting questions. "Brianna, did Judge Judy go too far? Do you think your dad will respond?" She ignored them all, ducking into a black SUV, her expression blank but her eyes glistening. The clip from the hearing hit social media within hours. Headlines exploded, "Judge Judy schools governor's daughter in 15 seconds flat." Millions watched, replaying the moment Judge Judy silenced Brianna with her timeless truth. Comment sections overflowed with praise. "That's why we love Judge Judy," one person wrote. "Finally, someone put that spoiled girl in her place," another added. For Brianna, however, the fame was humiliating. Overnight, she went from being admired for her father's title to being pitted for her arrogance. Her friends stopped answering her calls. Her father, embarrassed by the scandal, gave a statement to the press, "My daughter's actions do not reflect our family's values. She will be taking time to understand accountability." That statement stung worse than any judgment. Weeks later, Brianna returned to Mr. Harris's shop, a check in hand. She didn't bring cameras or friends this time. "I came to apologize," she said softly. "And to thank you. You didn't deserve how I treated you." The mechanic smiled faintly. "Apology accepted," he said. As she walked back to her car, something inside her shifted. The girl who once believed her father's name made her untouchable now understood that real respect couldn't be inherited, it had to be earned. Meanwhile, Judge Judy moved on to the next case, her expression as unreadable as ever. But behind that calm exterior, she knew she'd done more than settle a dispute that day. She'd reminded an entire generation of viewers of a simple truth: no one is above accountability. 15 seconds of silence, one cutting remark, and an entire courtroom witnessed the collapse of arrogance under the weight of justice. In a world obsessed with fame and power, Judge Judy's words became a timeless echo: "I don't raise brats. I raise responsible citizens." And for the first time in her privileged life, Brianna Carson began to understand what those words really meant.